live long and prosper.
I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Lilu Dallas Multipass.
Shut up and take my money.
By Grabthar's hammer. What a saving.
One does not simply walk into Mordor.
X never, ever marks the spot.
Winter is coming.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Stay a while and listen.
Hey, old Kermit the Frog.
Bow ties are cool.
So say we all.
This is a Play on Nerds. Welcome to episode 206 of A Play on Nerds. I'm Jarman.
And I'm Steve, and we are here to co-host the hell out of this.
Damn right. And this week we are doing our crazy Mad Libs of Nerd Roll of Fortune. Who knows what we'll be talking about? We don't know, but we'll find out soon. Better stay tuned.
That's right. We got a random list of 20 topics from ChatGPT, followed by 10 subtopics per topic.
Oh, gosh.
We're working our way through it.
And they're super nerdy, so you'll be into it.
Super nerdy. And some of them we know a lot about. Some of them we don't know almost nothing about.
That's true. We'll see what turns out. But before
we got
we
anime
get to
once. We did not have anything to say.
That's right. Which one?
I think we got anime at one point.
Oh, yeah, it exists.
We've watched one or two.
Back in college, I experimented with anime, but
hey, everyone does in college.
Exactly.
It's a phase.
You get through it, it's fine. Or you just never come back, you just really enjoy it. You stick around.
A bunch of sweaty dudes in a room experimenting with anime.
Saying Kamea over and over again or whatever.
Yeah.
Throwing some Pokemon around, some Pokeballs, get in the mix.
Yeah. But before that, Nerd Fortune, Jarman, what have you been up to since last time we talked?
Well, I got back from Dragon Con and it was a long time off. So I had a lot of audiobook work to catch up on and squeeze in. And I got them all done just as of yesterday. And I'm back on a regular work schedule because I was working 10, 12-hour days. But I did my first football romance. Me and football, it was actually kind of hard to do, I found out, because I realized I was so used to the terminology in the other books that this one was kind of difficult for me because there's so many things I had to say over and over again because I didn't know if I was saying the right inflections for these phrases about plays and that kind of thing. But it's called Going for Two, and it's exclusive for Realm FM, which is pretty cool because I was just a guest on a podcast with a guy, to the Do My Job podcast, where I talked about being a voice actor, and he's on Realm FM. And so they randomly contacted me, a producer I worked before. She works with them now, and they're producing this for a podcast format, basically. It was pretty cool. And then book 2 in a series called Nymerian Rebels, which was easier for me to kind of vomit out of my mouth because it's in a fantasy world with swords and magic, and it was a romance in that kind of setting, which is really cool. And it's book 2. The book 1 had a guy named Alex Kidd as the male narrator, and he's one of the top 10 romance narrators in the industry. And he dropped out for the second book, and they contacted me. And so I'm now going to be taking over the series, I hope, at least doing book 2. So Nymerian Rebels, Renegade Kings is the name of this one. So it's pretty cool.
Dude, you need to leverage this shit to get us on whatever this Realm thing is.
Yeah, it's like a podcasting network-ish, but I think they make original content, so they wouldn't take on an existing podcast.
Who knows? We're a well-oiled machine.
Maybe,
you don't know.
But they did take on Noah, and he had that was an existing podcast, so maybe you got to take that back. Who knows?
See, baby?
I got first place.
We have 10 years of success.
10 years of success. And all of our
success is a relative word.
Yes, it successfully stayed on, so that's good.
Yeah, we've been pretty darn consistent.
It's true. We got first place at trivia after not going for a long time at the trivia.
I saw your big old trophy.
That's right. And we got lucky with the questions. So we went again this week and got 6th place. So it doesn't stick around.
That's okay.
But also I'm getting my house ready for Steve and his lovely wife, Anna, to come visit very soon for our 20th high school anniversary, which is pretty exciting. Right.
We're going to be together in person. Perhaps we will have to try to record something.
Oh, that's true.
No matter how brief.
Yes. We're here for like 3 or 4 days, so we could fit that in somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I'm getting excited.
I'm coming to party too, so stay up late. Be crazy. I'm up for it. I'm down.
I'm actually setting up our second TV that we have in the book room to have all the retro games on it, because it's going to have an emulator and ROMs. So we have thousands of retro games we can play on that system if you wanted to. It's going to be fun. So lots of things to do late into the night.
Streets of Rage.
All night long. But Steve, what have you been up to?
Not a whole lot. Work is geared up steadily. as Apple launches a new phone tomorrow as of the time we're recording. And so it's just making sure there's food arrangements and getting lots of little things done. So work has been plentiful and just eating my life. But after tomorrow, we launch the phone.
And then I'll relax a little bit.
Make like 1 million people happy. It's going to be busy, but the first 2 to 3 days are like really the hump. Because that's when you get the early adopters, the people that are really, really excited.
Yeah.
And the slightly more techie crowd who's really going to nerd out. And there's really good energy. The people that are just like, it's my yearly upgrade. A lot of those people come in later.
People can afford those yearly upgrades. Good for them.
There's like 1,000 ways to buy a phone now. Man, it's crazy.
All of them put you into some kind of debt, though.
Maybe. But we just added Boost Mobile is apparently now joining the big three.
Oh, to do Apple service, basically?
Yeah, well, not only that, to be like the fourth, basically T-Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T, I believe this is how it went, basically got hit with some like antitrust kind of stuff. And it was judged that a fourth provider needed to be added.
For Apple phones.
And so all of these smaller companies, I think, jockeyed for it. No, not for Apple phones, like for the U.S. market.
Oh, gotcha.
And so all these companies jockeyed, and Boost Mobile got it, and now have made a new division, Boost Infinite.
Because Boost Mobile is always like the affordable kind of economy option for getting a phone service.
And Boost Mobile still exists, but that's I think they're like prepaid or month to month kind of style.
Yeah.
Service. Infinite is going to be more like the big guys.
Gotcha. And there's always Ryan Reynolds service too, but
it's going to bring so many people in the door. It's going to be crazy.
Interesting. So you say you make food arrangements, meaning for like your employees, and they have to be there late hours and early hours?
Yeah. Part of my responsibility for my job is I receive a budget based on head count, and then figure out how I can feed the team for that amount of monies.
That makes sense.
And this year I'm smarter, so I saved a chunk of my normal quarterly budget, and so I get to feed the team more.
Very nice.
Because I learned my terrible lesson.
It's like you're good at your job. You learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, year over year, you improve and try to do the best version,
It's much better than when we were at CNN and we had, suddenly there's a breaking news story, so everyone needs to stay late. And we'll scramble to get you really bad pizza because we have to stay and the food court's closed. You have nowhere to eat, so you have to eat the bad pizza.
We're going to scramble so hard, guys.
The cheapest pizza we can find.
But yeah, so that's just been a lot of my time and energy. And the other thing I did do that was actually fun, I'm talking about in Radical Recommend, so I don't want to bring it up here.
Oh, very nice. A little tease for later in the show.
It wasn't all work, but more later.
That would have made you a dull boy, so we don't want that.
It would have.
So here's some nerdy news.
It's time for Nerdy News.
All right, this week, the cheeky name for my cheeky story is The Nose Knows. Scientists took 77 healthy adults and told them that they would be testing a new type of pain reliever, a nasal spray version of fentanyl.
Ooh.
Okay. But none of them contained fentanyl. Half of them contained saline. So just, salt water, normal stuff, very inert. And the other half contained capsaicin, which is the stuff that makes peppers spicy.
Oh, God.
Which would cause a mild burning sensation and like some excessive runny nose kind of stuff. So they had these two groups use the spray and then used thermal, so both hot and freezing cold pain stimulus to measure the results of their perceived pain on these two different things. And after taking MRIs, they found that the perceived and actual pain experienced in people who received the capsaicin that had the burning was lower than the ones that had just saline with zero effect. And so this is leading scientists to believe that treatments could be improved if minor negative side effects are purposefully added into otherwise inert drugs just to prove to our stupid fish brains that they're working.
Mind over matter kind of thing going on there.
Right. Our brain is like, man, this pill is making me uncomfortable. It must be working. Like, it's a real thing. So that is the nose.
It's like when you get a massage and it's like, it's a really strong hurting massage and you're bruised afterwards, but you're like, it must have worked. It must have done some good shit.
Totally worth it. I can't even sit down.
Or I just worked out at the gym and I killed myself and my whole body's falling apart. I must have worked. Must have been really good. So
I'm going to hurt so good tomorrow morning.
It's a good kind of hurt. I promise.
It's the dry heat.
It's dry heat. But that brings us to some main segments. Yes. Our nerd roll of fortune. Delayed reaction.
That dice is gone.
Did you put that in your butt?
It's almost there.
What just happened?
I'm trying to get the dice that fell. Oh, thank God. That was a close one.
So I don't have a D6. So you're going to roll a D6 to see how many topics we talked about.
This week, we're going to cover a spicy 5. So we're going to make them quick.
All right. You got it. Well, I'll roll the first D20 here to see which general topic we're going to be talking about. Of course, I have a dice that's gray with black letters, so I can barely see it in this light. And that is a 7. So we're going down the list to iconic sci-fi fantasy TV shows.
All right.
D10 for you, buddy.
Sweet D10. And it is an 8.
8 is
Big Ocho.
Battlestar Galactica.
Have we talked about this?
Apparently not. Not in this fashion.
All right. Well, I have not watched any of like the original, really.
I haven't either. I feel bad.
1970, whatever. Sorry. But I did watch all of the new Battlestar Galactica. And I gotta say, as I've never really been one for like political dramas, West Wing and all that has never really struck my fancy. Battlestar Galactica absolutely did, and is more like a political drama than anything for large stints of time.
For fantasy, you have Game of Thrones for political drama, and then for sci-fi, you have Battlestar Galactica for political drama. Absolutely.
So in that way, it captured me in a way that no other show sort of in that category has. You had some really good sci-fi, a really compelling, I'm not even going to say villain, adversary.
Complex adversary,
who is not just a universally united, hateful group, and just in high tension because everything's in space. They make it very clear early. I've just rewatched, I want to say the first, like the mini series, the 1-2 opener, and then like 2 or 3 episodes. And I forgot, like, not only does tons and tons of people die, but then more people die.
Yeah. It's
like,
brutal.
It's not like they saved them and everyone makes it from that point on. They're like, shit, we just lost another ship. Mm-hmm. Another 700 of the only remaining humans are gone.
It's bleak. And a big thing they say that's changed, what you were talking about, the villain being complex, is that the original show, all the Cylons were robots with the red eye thing. And this one, they make it so that they evolve into having human appearances, not only just to trick people, but also for the story convention that makes them more interesting and makes them more human-like. And they feel like they deserve to have rights and they deserve to do what they're doing, and makes the villain more interesting. But I watched, there was a movie, Razor, where they did like a TV movie in between one of the seasons, I think, with the woman who plays Ensign Ro in Star Trek. You'll meet later on. And then,
no, I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
they had a mini series somewhere in between or right afterwards called Caprica, which was a prequel series taking place right before this, how the Cylons were created and stuff. And that was fascinating. It wasn't great, but it was like only like 12 episodes, and it got canceled.
No, I do. Like many great sci-fi shows, there was a very specific point, I think, in the last season or second to last season, where they lost me. One really weird choice that made me go, what? Because there's a lot of philosophical stuff, and there's a lot of religious stuff as well.
Yeah.
But they took it to a point beyond undertones. And I went,
I always thought that, because I'm not, you know me about religion, I'm not a huge fan, but I always thought they did toe the line carefully, that what appeared as religious or spiritual could have been explained with science if people just tried to figure it out. But they left it ambiguous enough to like, is this a supernatural thing or is it just science we don't understand yet? You know, kind of thing.
I don't know. And we can put the spoiler flag in here. Why don't you just play it?
Oh, where is
Battlestar Galactica spoiler.
Spoiler.
This is for you, Anna.
Spoiler.
All right. So the one thing here's the thing I could not get behind was that when they're like, well, Starbuck is dead. Oh, she's back. Starbuck is an angel. And they didn't back down from that. It was not a metaphor. There was a while where like she was kind of sure of it and other people were sure of it. And that's just what she was.
I thought there was some ambiguousness to it. It's been a while since I've seen it,
weird.
but I don't remember.
It was so direct and so strange.
I remember characters saying that she was or thinking that she was, but I just didn't remember it being explained what the hell happened. And I was more upset about that. They just didn't really explain what that was supposed to be.
Right. And that's where I'm talking about. Like they took this thing that was like allegorical and they just pushed it over the edge.
Yeah, I can see that.
They threw us just into the deep end right at the end.
They were about to reboot it. Ronald D. Moore and everything was on board, but then it didn't happen. There was going to be some kind of animated thing that didn't happen. So it might be going somewhere where they might get another try at it, but we'll live long enough to see reboots of all of our favorite shows, I'm sure.
And learn to hate them.
But we got to keep moving forward.
That's right. Am I doing that?
Do that D20 business.
D20? You'll do the 10? All right. 10.
10 is going to be famous directors and their filmography.
Let's see if we get someone we actually know.
5 was going to be one we've already done, so I got to roll again. 1, which is Steven Spielberg, iconic films and directorial style.
What's the first Spielberg film you remember?
It might be between E.T. and... I wasn't alive, I don't think, when E.T. came out. Was it before 86? I don't know.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about movie came out. I'm talking about like what you remember.
Yeah.
E.T. was 82.
I wasn't alive yet, but I think that's one of the first ones I remember thinking to myself, someone told me that this is directed by Steven Spielberg and that meaning something in my head because I didn't know. Before that, I wouldn't have known. But yeah, that's probably one of the first, and maybe Jurassic Park. Big one. What about you?
Yeah, I think E.T. is something I probably saw on TBS or some other movie station growing up, USA or something like that. So E.T., because of its family friendliness, was probably the first one I saw.
And I remember Jurassic Park being a big one that I was like, I want that DVD. Or the VHS. Back then it was VHS. But
yeah, I think I saw Jaws maybe the first time at 12 or 13. I remember dragging my parents to go see Jurassic Park opening weekend, which was like not something we did. And it was entirely off the fact that I was like, Mom and Dad, this movie is going to change everything.
It kind of did.
And it kind of did. Like, but it was one of those things where like, for whatever reason, I figured it out. And it was like, guys, you're going to want to be able to say you went to opening weekend at Jurassic Park because it's going to be in history books.
That was like 94. So we would have been like 8, something like that, around that age.
Yeah.
But it was incredible. And I just saw a TikTok recently where a guy has a whole account about breaking down shots of famous directors and basically showing this shot from Hook, which I think is an underrated, underappreciated Steven Spielberg movie.
It was panned as shit when it came out.
But I loved Hook, and it's one of my wife's favorite movies. But it shows this one shot of Professor McGonagall lady as Wendy and Robin Williams and the wife. I'm trying to forget who played her, but they're all walking up the front steps of their house before they look in the window. And just, it's a simple shot of them walking up the front steps to look in the window and see something crazy happening in the house. But it shows just like the camera movements that had to happen for them, all the faces and basically him, you know, unfocusing on the unimportant characters, but having the rack focus to the important character. All these things are happening with the camera. There's no digital things back then going on. And it's just like, these are things we don't even notice as we're watching one of his movies, but he's also just really good with that. Directing is important in that case because he's making things feel interesting just by moving the camera around, you know, which is, I don't know. So there's a reason why he is where he is. I think most of his recent movies have been kind of boring and uninteresting. I think he's trying to be serious and do like real life topics and not do fantastical movies anymore. And it's just like, I don't care. Like,
I mean, I'm looking at his filmography and just listen to this crazy kind of range, both in audience and tones.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got E.T., then after that was Twilight Zone, the movie. It's like family fun, antics, that sort of stuff. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And then The Color Purple.
He directed The Color Purple. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then Empire of the Sun, which is like a very dismal film.
Christian Bale, young Christian Bale.
Then Last Crusade.
Mm-hmm.
Hook, Jurassic Park, Schindler's List.
Bam! Schindler's List.
If I remember correctly, he was making Jurassic Park and Schindler's List
the same time,
back to back.
Yeah.
Where he was in edits for Jurassic Park while filming Schindler's List or something.
Yep.
Like that. And then like Lost World, Jurassic Park, Amistad. Just these crazy swings in tone.
He does one for fun and one to be real serious, like back and forth.
And if you look at the sheet, that's really what this spells out. A director who like pays his dues with one film so he can make the one he wants.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's great. I agree. His recent stuff, Lincoln
was all right.
Was okay.
Daniel Day-Lewis,
Warhorse was
slog.
A slog.
What was the one with
but like
Meryl Streep, or it's like the news company, and that was real bad. Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep.
I don't remember that one.
It was a serious one about like some scandal that happened in the news and in the real world. But I watched it and I was like, yeah, it's very polished. It just is very boring. I just don't care. But he's getting old.
But then you got like Ready Player One just a few years ago.
People panned it in some regards, but I really liked it. I read the book and I watched the movie. I thought it was great. I thought it was good.
The book was good.
Yeah, I loved the book. But yeah, Steven Spielberg. He's great.
Yeah, he's earned his spot on this random list we had the computer make.
All right, my D20. Is a 9, which is science fiction and fantasy literature.
Okay, and 1.
Dystopian fiction, Orwellian worlds, and societal critiques.
I mean, some of my favorite books fall into sort of this category. Maybe not dystopian, but borderline. I think of something like Ender's Game.
That's true. It's kind of
falls into this, a futuristic, highly regulated society with maximum children united by some terrible cataclysmic event that shapes everything. Like all the elements are there.
And I think I mentioned I've only read Ender's Shadow because I think you had given it to me. Or
how have you still not read Ender's Game?
And it's like, it's so weird because it follows the same story, but just from a different character's perspective. Story. Yeah, it was great though.
I recommend both. The rest of that side of the saga is very dead, so I don't necessarily recommend it for everybody.
But buy them used or something because we don't want to give the author more money because he's kind of
Orson Scott Card is kind of a right-wing
homophobe
affiliated with some bad views on things that we do not agree with here at the podcast.
So just buy it from a nice bookstore where we can support the local person and he doesn't get any of the money. There you go.
And then he already got his money and you don't give him more.
Exactly.
So some of my, and then I got everything's like for Future War and Starship Troopers both fit into that category.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
Books I really have enjoyed. I've read 1984.
I think I did back in high school. Yeah.
I don't care. I just don't.
Either. It's fine.
We already live in a way further dystopian than anything they described.
Yeah, it's worse than they could have predicted.
We literally give the computer our information for free. And we say, thank you. Give me my kitty pictures now. Yum, 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 yum.
Yum, 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 yum.
Yum, 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 yum. So... I don't know. Those are like, I do have some that fit in that category, but I'm not a giant fan of the genre.
I don't like things that are too dark, and I'm reading a book. If I have such precious time to actually read a book that I want to for fun, not for my work, I want to be enjoyable and fun and exciting, not God, dystopian future. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm living in one. So
yeah, I agree.
Okay. All right. You're G20 now.
Oh, shiz. All right. 14.
Oh, I was like, it doesn't go that far. It does. Pop culture history. We never used this one before, so let's see. That's a 9. Oh my God. Super Bowl halftime shows, iconic performances, and controversies. What? How was this on the list? I must have slipped through.
Okay, I'm just going to look up most memorable.
Well, first of all, we had another one, the biggest one that we were there for, which was the Janet Jackson, Justin Timberlake, Boobgate. I think we were both at Kevin Hammersmakochi's house. And
we were somewhere.
I remember being at his house when it happened. We were watching the Super Bowl there, and I don't think any of us really noticed what happened while it was going on. It just didn't. I didn't notice her boob. It was so fast. It cut away real fast, and we just kind of continued on with what was going on. And then we saw in the news later what had happened, and we were like, "Oh, I didn't even notice that." But that was Boobgate.
Left Shark happened just a few years ago.
Oh, Katy Perry, the guy who became like a viral sensation just for dancing weird as a shark. Yeah.
Yeah, for like getting put in late or something and not really knowing the dance. Yeah.
Left Shark. Oh my God.
I don't care. Maybe this is our short one. Like,
that's fine. No, that's the biggest ones that I know about. We have
said what we need.
That's the ones we've lived through that we remember, and that's about it.
That's true.
All right, so my turn for D20.
And is this the last one? Is this 3 or 4
or 5? I don't. We had
5 is the total.
Yeah, we did 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, this is the last one.
Okay, so one more. Okay.
All right, 13.
9.
All right, 13 is geeky gadgets and technology, and 9 is electric vehicles, cars, scooters, and bikes. This is pretty geeky topic. Electric vehicles. I'm very glad that because of Captain Troll Elon Musk pushing so much not gravitas, but braggadociousness with his Tesla and making it think like he was the only one who could possibly do it. It made all these companies show him what a doofus he is by making cheaper and actually better vehicles than the Tesla.
Yeah.
So I'm actually glad that he was like Russia in the space race. There's like, it's going to force other people to compete and make better technology because you're such a jerk that they're going to make better technology. So it actually, he did help in the end, but not in the way he thought. And so I think there's really great cars coming out. Maybe you know more about some of the ones that are available because I'm not in the car market yet, but I want to get my next car being electric. What about you?
So I'm still borderline in that, like, I love where we're heading with electric vehicles. There's still some hurdles that it has not passed.
I agree.
That get me. A lot of the people in the nerd thread that we talk to have very strong opinions about electric vehicles.
Oh, yeah.
And all of them are like, a battery range under 300. I can't possibly. But like my little Honda Fit, which is an incredibly fuel efficient little vehicle, when I fill all the way up, it's like 305. So I know I can be fine with that sort of
range. Only goes, on one tank, it goes 305 miles, you're saying?
Right.
Yeah.
And, and that's the battery for a lot of these newer, smaller vehicles. And I'm fine with that range. I already have that range. The issue is that speed charging technology has not gotten to the point where there is even a remote equivalence of time.
Right.
I can fill up my Honda Fit in about 3 minutes because it only has a 8-gallon tank. But if it was electric, suddenly we're talking about me parking it for, even on some of the highest end fast chargers, 40 minutes. Like super high end, top of the line, 40 minutes to get 80% of battery.
And that's if you're lucky to get the fast charging stations and stuff.
Right. And that's if you find that. Otherwise, you're talking about, an hour and a half.
And these are all problems, like you said, probably will be gone in the near future, or at least there'll be such a prolific amount of fast charging stations that it won't be an issue. You could always just stop for dinner and completely recharge your car.
Well, I mean, there needs to be some form of, somebody needs a breakthrough is what it comes down to. And we see, and you look at the history of, the world, there's this thing that was the status quo for a really long time. And there was a breakthrough of some sort. And then the old industry just disappeared.
Just dies.
In 20 years, everything was gone.
Yep.
Like people talk about, New York City, major cities like Boston, Chicago used to just be filled with horses.
Yeah.
Moving wagons, moving people, moving trolleys, moving stuff. And because of that, not only was this a huge, thing around horses, but also like just keeping horse manure out of the streets was its own industry.
Yeah, guys, that was their job all day.
Yeah, and that was their job all day. And then to take that out of the city and then take that to a dump or take that, like there was an industry around all these things. And then like cars came out, and in 20 years,
gone. They
were a novelty.
Mm-hmm. So once ubiquitous, completely fast charging stations are available, bam, it's a game changer completely.
The other boundary that we have also, and this is true, is that there are some people, not some people, a lot of Americans that are not going to give up their big vehicles. And the range on those right now is really not great. Overall.
On the electric ones?
On electric. So like electric trucks
right,
and electric minivans are still not where they need to be. And I think until you can get an engine that is as powerful, it gives you the sort of performance that like a diesel truck is going to give you, you're never going to capture that segment.
And I would say the engines are just as powerful, if not more, just driving. My stepdad has a Tesla, and it's just the insane amount of torque and just like, it just goes so incredibly hard and fast with no noise. It's crazy. But you're right. I think it would be like, just like minivans, you want those for long road trips. So like those need to be able to go a long way and have safe recharging points for your family. I would say in big trucks, it shouldn't be as important because, well, if you want, the trucking industry would be a big part of that. So you're right. The long distance, reliable way to have long distance electric giant truckers, that'd be impressive because that would change the whole industry.
Right. And Tesla has done some stuff with electric trucks, and so is Chrysler. And
well, the Cybertruck is a disaster, but beyond that, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, they just love being in their natural habitats on the back of tow trucks.
Yeah, that's exactly. And don't get rained on because they'll rust immediately. It's terrible. But yeah, there's our views on electric cars. Scooters and bikes, those things are great. They're cool but I hate that they leave them all around the cities, just sit scattered like trash. It's terrible.
I actually just looked at what a rental or like a short-term lease for an electric bike would be for when I go to California for work.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, all right, maybe. And I looked, but some of them, the deposit is nuts.
It's like if you break the whole thing, they want to be covered, basically.
Yeah. But it's like, so it's pretty reasonable per week, but it's a $1,200 hold. Huh. Like what? I
guess if it's on a credit card, then it would go back to the card and it wouldn't be a big deal.
Yeah, but unless I'm a goofy bitch and destroy
that's
bicycle.
Goofy
which
bitch.
Which seems more likely. I think I'm better getting there and buying a cheap bike for $100, using it and throwing it away when I leave the state.
That's true. You could do that. Oh my God.
But no, I think I'm all for hybrids though. I love the fact, my parents have one of the newer Priuses, and they can get like 50 miles to the gallon. And it's a plug-in one. Yeah. So there's a local smaller battery. So as long as they stay within 45 miles or something like that, they never use gas. And I do love those sort of things.
And the good thing is too, like soon I'd love to keep my bigger SUV that I have now and eventually get rid of Jolie's old car. And we'd have a electric vehicle she would use to go back and forth to work since I work from home. And we could just use our gas car for now until technology gets better for long trips and stuff. And so that'd be perfectly smart for her to use her electric vehicle to go back and forth from work. And then we use the bigger car for longer trips,
Yeah. Now, one of the more, the smarter designs I've seen is like the mini engine idea, where you still have a engine that requires gas, but it is small. It is like the size of a glorified weed whacker. So it's super efficient, very small, very low emission. And the idea is that it is not running the engine. When you need it, this little engine can be kicked on to charge the battery, to spin a thing and charge the battery. So this little thing is outputting a ton of electricity at a much lower rate of consumption as far as
it's like your emergency recharge if you ever needed it, basically.
Right.
And you use just a little bit of gas in the reserve there.
Therefore, you could run on gas if you needed to.
Just to get to where you need to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I like that.
There's some of that stuff too. But there's like the weird little rat vehicles that are strange, that are the other side of that. This guy I think he called it a Ratmobile, if I remember correctly. Rat standard for something smart though. Oh. But it was like a little one-person vehicle that was a little more than like a cockpit seat, a steering wheel, and inside were bicycle pedals. And it was the same idea. You weren't it had a battery, and you weren't pedaling to move the car. You were pedaling to charge the battery. And this thing goes between, up to 45 miles per hour.
Sounds like a death trap.
Commuter kind of vehicle. Well, it's the sort of vehicle that only would work if we all did it.
Right. Then it would be so dangerous we ran into one.
If we were all driving these little fucking clown cars around, it would be fine, because it would be the funniest pile up ever when something went wrong.
And you'd be okay.
Yes, it is now. You would just be that bug splatter that everyone's been missing from their front windshield. It's
like my mom and her little Miata back in the day. She got hit by a semi, and somehow she was fine. She still calls it a miracle from God. But then I can't explain it. Her car was completely totaled and smashed. She was fine. And like this little Miata and a semi truck just bulldozed. It's like, that's what I'm picturing. Man.
So that's what happened to the Miata.
Yeah. Also, weird car thing just came to my mind that still blows my mind to this day. You look at your car on one lane of traffic. Inside your vehicle, you have enough space for a person next to you. You can reach over to the other side and touch the door. Then you get onto a bus in the same lane as you, 2 people on each side. There's a lane in the middle. There's a bathroom. It just blows my mind. It makes sense somehow, like mathematically, but it just feels so weird that there's that much space in the same amount of space on the road as your car in the same lane. Isn't that weird?
Yeah. I mean, mind you, they are wider.
They are taking up the whole
bus
lane.
Is wider than like 1.5 or 2 feet wider than my little tiny ass car.
True. It just blows my mind.
There's some big trucks that are like 2 feet wider than my car.
There's like a whole city though on that bus, and then it's fitting in the same lane as your little car that you can reach over and touch the other side. It's very weird.
Yeah.
It's a mind fuck. But I think that brings us to some radical recommends.
Yeah.
If you have the means, I highly recommend picking one up.
What do you recommend I do?
I recommend pleasant.
All right. This week, my radical recommend was the thing I didn't mention in my weekly updates, because it's something I'm recommending to everyone. Do like adult sleepovers. So this is something that we did with cousins about a year ago, sort of by accident for the first time, in that the kids were at mom and dad. They were going to come over. We were going to do like a game night, and it was about midnight, and everyone had to either stop drinking, or Ann and I had the brilliant idea. We're like, look, the kids are at mom and dad's. Their bed's upstairs. We got our couch. We got a mat. We just keep drinking, and you guys spend the night. And so, like, sure enough, everyone stayed around. We were up drinking till like 2 or 2:30 and really had a good time. And I was like, we should just make this a thing. So just this past weekend, we used my Uncle Harry and Aunt Di bought and renovated a church about 30 minutes away, which is a beautiful riverside location. And so myself, my wife, and then my cousin Allie and Tess and their significant others went and used it and had an adult sleepover at like a big renovated church on a river.
Hell yeah.
And we did some time just drinking down by the river. We played beer pong. We ordered pizza, played video games. We did lots and lots of tequila shooters, played some table games, and just really had a real good time.
Yeah. And actually that's reminds me of what I heard on Dak Shepard's podcast, the Armchair Expert. The early episodes, we talked about him and Kristen Bell will often have adult sleepovers with their friends who also have kids. So even when you can't have the kids stay somewhere else, you stay up with your kids and you have fun with the kids. The kids can play together as well if they're at a certain age. The adults are having fun too. Then you all put the kids to bed and you all still have a good time and you all sleep over in the same house. And it's a way of like, you can bring community together in that way too. So it doesn't even have to be without the kids. It can be an adult sleepover with everybody.
No, it's better without the kids.
Well, I get that. If you have that advantage where you have someone,
you have no kids, you have nothing to say about this, Joe.
But if you have a place to put the kids, absolutely, that's a great, and then you should do that.
Yeah,
but,
grandma and grandpas. My God,
exactly.
Take them.
But yeah, so either way, I totally agree because Steve and I had so many sleepovers growing up, like we did that all the
time. And we're about to do it again in a couple of weeks.
That's right. You're going to sleep over a couple of nights. It'll be fun.
Yeah. Top bunk.
Top hunk. Oh, you called it. Damn.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my radical recommend. It's just find a reason to have sleepovers with like your adult friends.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with
Once
that.
nobody's driving, it completely changes the dynamic.
Yeah, and especially if you can find a place to put your kids. I mean, that's the important thing. They're having a sleepover too, somewhere else.
Yeah. Just in a box somewhere. It's fine.
Boxcar kids. That brings us to some trailer reviews. All right, this week we're talking about this movie that came out of nowhere. I never heard of it before until now, but Mickey 17, and it's not related to Mickey Mouse. So it seems to be about a guy in the future, played by Robert Pattinson, with a kind of a funny, adorable accent that he's put on.
Yeah, like a kind of
Yeah, hey guys, I'm
I
Mickey.
don't know. It's weird.
So he goes from Batman to playing this guy. I love that kind of range. I think he actually is a really good actor. I didn't care for his Batman movie, but it wasn't his fault. But this movie, he plays a guy in the future who seems like he's hard in his luck, so he needs to apply for a job where you basically play an expendable, who basically they're put in dangerous situations a lot where they will probably die. And once he dies, his brain is then downloaded back into a new copy of his next body. And they keep putting him in more dangerous situations where he keeps dying, and they keep learning about humanity and about how to make us stronger and better, I guess. They don't really make it quite clear, but they're learning from his deaths. Until at some point one of his bodies accidentally survives and they don't know it. They've already made a new copy. And so Mickey 17 meets Mickey 18 and hijinks ensue. It was kind of like a dark comedy kind of thing in the future, sci-fi. I don't know. What do you think about it, Steve?
I think it looks like Moon if Moon wasn't sad. And I dig that. I dug Moon. So
Moon was great.
I don't, they're purposely keeping some major aspect of the film very, very silent in the trailer. And I don't know what that aspect is yet.
Yeah.
Nor can you gauge how early the Mickey 17 incident occurs. But for all we know, most of what we saw in the trailer might be from the first 10 minutes of the movie.
Which I like for trailers. Don't give away too damn much. Yeah. They give the premise that makes it's interesting, and they show interesting sequences and him dying a bunch of times. It's so funny when they keep dumping his body into the lava.
Well.
What was that?
They set the tone incredibly well.
Oh yeah, like it's comedy but dark but kind of weird. But I love the scene they're showing him. They dump his body every time he dies into this lava pit, and at one point he's in the body bag and they're about to dump him, and he's like, "Oh shit, he's still alive." He's like, "Just dump me, I don't care."
It's okay.
It's pretty funny. Like, it looks entertaining. It's Apple TV, right? It's going to be on Apple. Exclusive.
Yeah, it is.
Your company?
Yeah, we did it.
You worked
Apple
on this,
TV
right?
Apple TV Plus has become the home of like both good sci-fi movies and television.
I mean, they've barely put out anything that's bad at all on Apple TV. Everything's been very critically acclaimed. Like, they're doing a pretty good bang-up job of content. Like, they didn't mess around because
no, we don't.
There's very few not hits on Apple TV.
When we come to play
because there's lots of money.
That's right. But yeah, I'm going to give this one just a short and sweet. Raul Julia's in bed sleeping, and he hears the door open, and as he's turning, he turns, and Gary Busey is just there staring at him. Like, he rolls over in bed, and Gary Busey's there. He goes, "Hey, Raul, I'm Gary 17. And Raul goes, "Get out of my fucking bed." And he goes, "All right, Raul." And he gets the fuck out of there.
I'm giving this movie, this is Raul Julia. Gary has gone through a long battle with cancer. It's very sad, and it's just been a long battle, and he realizes how much he did appreciate this crazy friend and roommate of his.
Yeah.
But finally he's at his funeral, and he goes through it all. He makes a very poignant, eulogy, goes back to his house, and there's Gary Busey sitting there on the couch, and he's like, "What the hell?" He's like, "Oh, you didn't know every time I die, I get a new copy's made of me." He's like, "Dear God, no, I'll never get rid of you. I was trying to be nice at your funeral, but I was so happy you were gone. You son of a bitch.
They just throw me in a flaming pit or whatever.
I can't get rid of you, Gary."
I'm in your mind, Raul.
Always.
Well, that brings us to the end of episode 206 of Play on Nerds. Join us next time as we move into the spooky October month and Halloween season. We're going to celebrate a Goonies-esque comedy horror featured supposedly for younger folk, maybe even the whole family, Monster Summer. With Mel Gibson, I'll just glaze over that real quick.
Oh, God.
About a group of kids facing spooky monsters in their hometown. And we're going to cover another movie that did just that many years ago. We're going to be watching Monster Squad, the cult classic.
Woo, which I've never seen. Have you seen, Steve?
I feel like I've seen like on TBS, like another one of those.
Yeah, one of those.
But come on back for the spooky hijinks. We will be your nerdy co-hosts if you'll be our nerdy audience. Thanks again, Internet.
Stay nerdy, my friends.
Thanks for listening to A Play on Nerds. Feel free to email feedback at aplayonnerds.com with all your questions or comments.
Shoot us a message on Facebook or Twitter and earn yourself a sweet shout out on the show.
Review us on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts so even more nerds can find us. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, we aren't picky.
Check out our entire back catalog and other offerings at aplayonnerds.com.
And how?